In this episode of Two Tall Guys Talking Sales, Kevin Lawson and Sean O'Shaughnessy take on a topic that quietly shapes hiring, staffing, and revenue decisions across the entire company: forecast accuracy. They make the case that strong forecasting starts long before a deal is supposed to close. It starts with disciplined discovery, tough questions, and a clear understanding of the business value you create for the customer. You will hear why weak pipeline data is not just a sales problem, but a leadership problem, and why honest forecasting is one of the clearest signs of real sales management maturity. If you want more predictable revenue generation and fewer surprises at the end of the quarter, stay with us.
One of the wisest men in all of sales is a gentleman by the name of Stan Lee. Now, you may not know who Stan Lee is, or you might think, wait a second, Stan Lee, he's that comics guy, that Marvel guy, and he made the guest appearances in all those films. This Stan Lee is the guy who put the words into Uncle Ben. If you don't know Uncle Ben, he is the uncle of Peter Parker. And the words that he said to all salespeople everywhere, across the land, across the world, very simple. With great power comes great responsibility. So all you salespeople out there, all you sales managers out there, you have great power. You know what is going on with your customer, with your prospect. You know when they're going to buy. You know what the configuration of what they're going to buy is. You know the price of what they're going to pay for that. You know it, and nobody else in your company knows that information. And it is your job to communicate all of that with an accuracy as high as you possibly can, to educate the rest of the company, communicate what is going on in the field, and when the revenue is going to close. Kevin, you've heard me talk about the importance of revenue communication, forecasting, as it's commonly called, before. What do you think? Besides the fact that you don't like Marvel Comics.
I was raised on a different kind of cartoon. And we're not going to get into that because it's irrelevant because we've only got 15 minutes here. But what I like about what you talked about is the great power, great responsibility piece. So for all you salespeople out there, especially you new sales reps, I want you to pay attention to this one statement. The entire company is basing their hiring and staffing decisions on your data. The entire company is relying on the accuracy of your data. That means you hold somebody else's job in your hands. That is the great power and great responsibility piece. So it is reckless for salespeople not to have good forecastable numbers. Now, too often CRM as a tool becomes a four-letter word. It becomes weaponized. It becomes a reporting management, but it's never that. We as sellers, sales leaders, and sales leaders, if you're using it only as a hammer to hit a nail, please stop. You're doing our entire profession a disservice. Use the CRM, not to micromanage, but to get the best thinking documented so you can help somebody achieve the next step of their goal. Forecasting is on a 90-day cycle. It is not the next week. By the time you have forecast something to be next week, it's a lock. It should be a foregone conclusion that only death and dismemberment can change. And that begs the question, Kevin, why do so many people miss their quotas? Why do so many deals habitually slip month in, month out, quarter in, quarter out? It's because people don't take this next phrase to heart. You have to ask tough questions early. And some of those tough questions are simple. Now, notice I didn't say complex. They're simple questions, but when you do the simple things well, you can reliably forecast outcomes. If you get a bunch of base hits in a baseball game, you're probably going to score a bunch of runs. There's certainly exceptions to that, but more than likely, if you're a base hit generating baseball club, you're going to win games. If you are exceptionally good at defending the pass, stopping the run, you're going to be exceptionally a high performer as a defense, and then it's up to your offense to score. There are so many analogies that resonate from the forecast, because the forecast is really the end part of good data management. I have a lot of examples, Sean, and I feel like I could really get up on my soapbox here and almost preach and maybe bring out my Southern drawl some, but I'm going to make myself stop talking because this is such an important topic. Sean, please take the floor and talk about the importance of data points and all the other things that Stan Lee would have you also say.
Kevin, those are great points. And I love that you did sports analogies to go offset my Marvel Comics analogy. I also like sports analogies, so I may be inclined to do that on this podcast today as well. But I'm actually going to talk about another sales leader that was on our show, and I'm going to say probably about 100 episodes ago, because it's been a year plus since we've done this. And for those of you who don't know, we drop this episode at 4:30 every Tuesday. Every week we put out an episode. We've even been known to put out an episode during Christmas holidays and Thanksgiving holidays. So just keep listening and make sure you hit that subscribe button or however you do that on your particular podcast player. But Chris Coca was on about 100 episodes ago, and he made the very solid point that kind of reinforces exactly what Kevin was just said. And he said discovery was the most important part of the sales process. And in fact, if you're not doing discovery enough, if you're not spending enough time doing it, if you're not digging in on discovery, then you probably are going to be in trouble later on in the sales cycle. Because when we discover what is going on, then we know how to react. And if we don't do enough discovery, if we skip those important, tough questions about what's going on and why is it important and how does this impact your business, Mr. Customer? How does this make you better? How does this make you faster? How does this make you run cheaper? Whatever the case may be. If you can't answer those questions, then eventually you will have to answer those questions. Just a matter of time. So get it done early. Get those great questions out there. Understand how does what you are selling going to affect the customer. Write those answers down. Understand those answers. Reconfirm those with other people in the buying decision committee. And that way, when you are about ready to close, you know what's going on. You know why it's going on. And so when the kind of the jerk purchasing agent says, we don't need that, you look at him and say, yes, you do. Don't even think that you don't need it because you have this project going on and this project going on and this project going on and that project going on. You have this issue coming down from the CEO. The CFO is worried about these things. And the purchasing agent's going to look at you and go, I give up. Whatever price you want me to pay, I'll pay. And believe me, I've actually had that happen. So your forecast starts with great discovery. And it is your ability to understand the business that allows you to forecast it. You are literally forecasting their business with you. So you need to figure out how you affect them and how you work with them and how you grow their business and how you make your prospect better. The more succinctly you can answer that question, the more likely you are to close the business when you say you're going to close it. It's actually easy to forecast. You take a look at all the things you're going to do for the customer. You figure out what they need to get done in order to make the order happen. You document all that and you tell your boss the truth. It's as simple as that. Because a lot of times the reason your forecast is wrong is because you're like managing your manager. And I get it. There's sometimes when you have to manage your manager, but don't manage your manager with your forecast.
Sean, I'd like to partner onto that. And this will go back to one of our conversations in October, November, where we talked about setting quotas. Quick story, quick aside here. Sean and I have had to regularly help manage executive teams on the opposite side of this coin. We've actually had to tell them, no, your quota and forecast actually has to be lower because you don't have the pipeline discipline, or sales acumen or top of funnel to support the number you want to get to. It's fine that you want to have this large growth year top end number, but if you haven't done all the things now, think between May and October, if you don't do all the right things now from a sales management, relationship development, prospect qualification, prospect activation behavior, your 2027 will not meet expectations. And that's a tough pill to swallow because sometimes Sean and I get brought into scenarios. after the end of the first half of the year or at some point in the year where somebody's trying to make up for lost ground, and you have to have an intellectually honest view of your sales pipeline, your sales cycle days, and the value. Now, and Sean, I thought of this when you were talking. You said creating the outcomes your customer wants. You have to understand how you create value in the customer's eyes. It's not, hey, I make the wobble or the washer or the wiggle go 2 more times faster through the machine. Nobody cares about processing speed. You care about output and what that does for your ability to produce orders faster, ship faster, all the other things inside their business that your solution impacts. It's so easy to get caught up in the features, benefits, and proof. I had a college professor who called it FABP, feature, attribute, benefit, and proof. That's how you create a case study. That's how you do a proof point for what you deliver, not how you describe the value you create. We're talking about the why, not the what or the how. Because the what or the how is a project management discussion. I need to end up with a pink wall, paint the wall pink, takes me an hour. You don't want that. You have a young daughter who loves the color pink and can't imagine a room that doesn't have a pink wall in it. You want your daughter to have the room with the pink wall in it, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get the pink wall. That's an easy analogy. It's actually corny, but I have a daughter who's about to fly the coop here and graduate and go to college. So I'm thinking about these kind of things. But this is important because now all of you as listeners know what one of my hot buttons is. So if you were to call me and mention children going off to college, I might have a kind ear to lend to you to listen to your value proposition. So listen with the intent to understand what your customer needs. This is why we do things like prospect research. This is why, this moment, because it drives our forecast. Now, to bring this back full circle, why do we do forecasting? Not just to report quota attainment or to the CFO. We do forecasting because it drives the entirety of the reliability of our businesses that we're selling for, or in some cases, you sellers out there are also owning the business. So if you want your business to run more effectively, do the simple things. Put the date that the customer should buy based on the insight you've gleaned, not the date that you want them to buy. It's not percentage of the sales cycle you completed. It's your percentage of confidence out of 100 that you think this deal will close on the date. We've got to do these things well and make them align to how the buyer buys and why, so that we can become better sellers.
I'm going to say something that I've said on this podcast before, and Kevin, you've heard it probably said 100 times as well. You don't sell the drill, you sell the hole. And more importantly than that, you sell what goes through the hole. Because the contractor that's looking at drills at the hardware store doesn't care about milliamperes or whatever that thing is that's on the side of the drill, doesn't care about the weight too much, doesn't care about much of anything aside from, does it use the same battery that all my other stuff uses? And how long do I have to do it before I swap out that battery? How long can I drill? And how many drills can I do on a 2x4 or 2x6 or 4x4, whatever that contractor drills through on a regular basis? How many can I do before I need to swap out that battery? And that's what matters. So the issue here is understanding the value, communicating that value to the rest of the company that you are working for so that everybody is on board. Now, I'm going to tell you a sad story. I'm going to be quick about it because we're almost out of our 15 minutes, but I'm going to tell you a sad story. When I was a young salesperson, my first management job, actually, I had a really bad quarter. Happens. And so I was like, I'm going to forecast low for this next quarter. And unbeknownst to me, that all of the other regional managers in the company, including our UK manager, also had a bad quarter and also came to the same stupid decision that I did and forecasted low. Now, the company was only about 110 people of size. We were a fairly young company trying to grow, trying to do things. We just had a bad quarter. The president laid off 4 people. And when you're 110 people strong, you know everybody in the company. So for those of you who work in companies that are that size, you know what I'm talking about. 4 people lost their job. I went to the president and said, why? These guys are good people. That one guy wasn't so good, but the other 3 were great. Why did you do it? He goes, Sean, we're going to have a lousy quarter. We just had a bad quarter. We're going to have another bad quarter. I have to. I have to protect our bottom line. I had the best quarter of my 2 years up to that point. At that next quarter, every other regional manager also had their best quarter in a long time. The UK manager had a record quarter. We blew our number away. 4 people lost their jobs, did not need to lose their jobs. Accurate forecasting is incredibly important. Take it seriously. Do it well. Do it as best as you can. And it's going to be wrong. But make it better than the wild ass guess that the CFO just picks a number out of the air and writes down on a piece of paper. If you want to learn more about this, make sure you follow us on B2B Sales Lab. B2B Sales Lab is a community of professionals getting together to talk about issues like this and asking questions and asking how to do better. So if you really want to be a great salesperson, if you really want to be a great sales manager, check out the B2B Sales Lab. Go to the show notes. The URL's there. Thank you very much. Happy selling.
That was a sharp episode. Practical, candid, and full of the kind of insight that makes better sellers and better sales leaders. One point that really stood out was the connection between discovery and forecast accuracy. When you ask tough questions early, clarify the business issue, confirm why it matters, and understand how the customer measures value. Your forecast stops being wishful thinking and starts becoming a credible business tool. That is a discipline too many teams skip, and it is exactly why deals slip. Messaging weakens and sales processes break down late in the cycle. The actionable move from this episode is simple and useful. Go back through your pipeline and reset the expected close date on each meaningful opportunity based on buyer evidence, not seller optimism. That matters because the date in your CRM influences far more than your own week. It affects planning, staffing, revenue management, and leadership confidence in the business. Do that review today before the noise of meetings, emails, and daily firefighting pushes it off your list again. If you need help improving sales, strengthening sales management, or growing your company with more discipline and better execution, reach out to Sean or Kevin using the contact information in the show notes. You should also take a look at the B2B Sales Lab, a community where salespeople and sales leaders help each other solve real problems, get better answers, and access resources that can help them make quota. And you will find the B2B Sales Lab link waiting for you in the show notes as well. Be sure to subscribe to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales on your favorite podcast player so you do not miss the next conversation when it drops next Tuesday afternoon Eastern. Happy selling!